Hey, what is up, everybody? I am going to be giving you another The Adventures of Tom Sawyer read aloud series for Chapter 3. I know I'm behind on doing this series, but I've just been busy all week last week, like I talked about in my channel update video, so I'm going to use this week to really catch up and read this book. And I'm going to be reading Chapter 3 today. And Chapter 3 is called Tom as a General. And it starts on page 23 and ends on page 30, so this is about 7 pages. So let's just get right into it. If you want to check out my Read Aloud series for chapters 1 and 2, click the playlist right up there. And now that I've covered that, let's do the Read Aloud series for chapter 3. I just have to get to page 23 first. Alright, so this chapter, like I said, it's called Tom is General. Tom presented himself before Aunt Polly, who was sitting by an open window in a pleasant rearward apartment, which was bedroom, breakfast room, dining room, and library combined. The balmy summer air, the restful quiet, the odor of the flowers, and the drowsing murmur of the bees had their effect, and she was nodding over her knitting. She had no company but the cat, and it was asleep in her lap. Her spectacles were propped upon her gray head for safety. She had thought that of course Tom had deserted long ago, and she wondered at seeing him place himself in her power again in this intrepid way. He said, "Mayn't I go and play now, Aunt?" "What? Already? How much have you done?" "It's all done, Aunt." "Tom, don't lie to me. I can't bear it." And if you just went back and watched the Chapter 2 Read Aloud series, Tom just did the thing where he just scammed like a bunch of people to do his chores for him and robbed them out of their stuff pretty much. So that's what's going on right now. He's telling his aunt he's all done. "I ain't, Aunt. It is all done." Aunt Polly placed small trust in such evidence. She went out to see for herself, and she would have been content to find 20% of Tom's statement true. When she found the entire fence whitewashed, and not only whitewashed, but elaborately coated and recoated, and even a streak added to the ground, her astonishment was almost unspeakable. She said, "Well, I never. There's no getting around it. You can work when you a mind to, Tom." And then she diluted the compliment by adding, "But it's powerful seldom you're a mind to. I'm bound to say, well, go on and play. But mind you, get back sometime in a week, or I'll tan you." Pretty much says like not to be late for like curfew and stuff. She was so overcome by the splendor of his achievement that she took him into the closet and selected a choice apple and delivered it to him, along with an improving lecture upon the added value and flavor a treat took to itself when it came without sin through various effort. And while she closed with a happy scriptural flourish, he hooked a donut. Then he skipped out and saw Sid just starting up the outside stairway that led to the back rooms on the second floor. Clothes were handy, and the air was full of them in a twinkling. They raged around Sid like a hailstorm, and before Aunt Polly could collect her supplies faculties and sally to the rescue, 6 or 7 clothes had taken personal effect, and Tom was over the fence and gone, which is, I think, what the thumbnail of this video is. There was a gate, but as a general thing, he was too crowded for time to make use of it. His soul was at peace now that he had settled with Sid for calling attention to his black thread and getting him into trouble. Tom skirted the block and came round into a muddy alley that led by the back of his aunt's cow stable. He presently got safely beyond the reach of capture and punishment and hastened toward the public square of the village where 2 military company of boys had met for conflict, according to previous appointment. Tom was general of one of these armies. Joe Harper, a Boston friend, general of the other. These 2 great commanders did not condescend to fight in person, that being better suited to the still smaller fry, but sat together on an eminence and conducted the field operations by orders delivered through aides de camp. Tom's army won a great victory after a long and hard-fought battle. Then the dead were counted, prisoners exchanged, the terms of the next disagreement agreed upon, and the day for the necessary battle appointed, after which the armies fell into line and marched away, and Tom turned homeward alone. As he was passing by the house where Jeff Thatcher lived, he saw a new girl in the garden, a lovely little blue-eyed creature with yellow hair plaited into 2 long tails, white summer frock, and embroidered pantaloons. The fresh-crowned hero fell without firing a shot. A certain Amy Lawrence vanished out of his heart and left not even a memory of herself behind. He had thought he loved her to distraction. He had regarded his passion as adoration, and behold, it was only a poor little evanescent, partially, I think that's what that's supposed to say. He had been months winning her. She had confessed hardly a week ago. She had been the happiest and the proudest boy. No, he had been the happiest and the proudest boy in the world. Only 7 short days, and here, in one instant of time, she had gone out of his heart like a casual stranger whose visit is done. So pretty much Tom found a new girl that he's interested in. He worshipped this new, and I guess he had someone else he liked, but I guess because he saw this girl, the other girl was like forgotten about. He worshipped this new angel with furtive eye till he saw that she had discovered him. Then he pretended he did not know she was present and began to show off, in quotation marks. Probably should have done the show off thing, but whatever. In all sorts of absurd, boyish ways in order to win her admiration. He kept up this grotesque foolishness for some time, But by and by, while he was in the midst of some dangerous gymnastic performance, he glanced aside and saw that the little girl was wending her way toward the house. Tom came up to the fence and leaned on it, grieving and hoping she would tarry yet a while longer. She halted a moment on the step and then moved toward the door. Tom heaved a great sigh as she put her foot on the threshold, but his face lit up right away, for she tossed a pansy over the fence a moment before she disappeared. The boy ran around and stopped within a foot or two of the flower, and then shaded his eyes with his hand and began to look down street as if he had discovered something of interest going on in that direction. Presently he picked up a straw and began trying to balance it on his nose with his head tilted far back, and as he moved from side to side in his efforts, he edged nearer and nearer toward the pansy. Finally, his bare foot rested upon it, his pliant toes closed upon it, and he hopped away with the treasure and disappeared round the corner, but only for a minute. Only while he could button the flower inside his jacket, next his heart or next his stomach, possibly, for he was not much posted in anatomy and not hypercritically anyway. He returned now and hung about the fence till nightfall, showing off as before, but the girl never exhibited herself again, though Tom comforted himself a little, while the hope that she had been near some window meantime, and been aware of his attentions. Finally, he rode home reluctantly with his poor head full of visions. All through supper his spirits were so high that his aunt wondered what had got into the child. He took a good scolding about coddling Sid, and did not seem to mind it in the least. He tried to steal sugar under his aunt's very nose, and got his knuckles rapped for it. He said, "Aunt, you don't whack Sid when he takes it." "Well, Sid don't torment a body the way you do. You'd be always into that sugar if I weren't watching you." Presently she stepped into the kitchen, and Sid, happy in his immunity, reached for the sugar bowl, a sort of glorying over Tom, which was well nigh unbearable. But Sid's fingers slipped, and the bowl dropped and broke. Tom was in ecstasies, in such ecstasies that he even controlled his tongue and was silent. He said to himself that he would not speak a word even when his aunt came in, but would sit perfectly still till she asked who did the mischief, and then he would tell, and there would be nothing so good in the world as to see that pet model catch it. He was so brim full of exultation that he could hardly hold himself when the old lady came back and stood above the wreck, discharging lightnings of wrath from over her spectacles. He said to himself, "Now it's coming," and the next instant he was sprawling on the floor. The potent palm was uplifted to strike again, when Tom cried out, "Hold on now! What are you beating me for? Sid broke it. So yeah, and it shows the picture of that. I don't know if you can see it. You can't really see it, but this is the picture of the whole situation going down. Aunt Polly paused, perplexed, and Tom looking for the healing pity, but when she got her tongue again, she only said, well, you didn't get a lick amiss, I reckon. You been into some other organization mischief when I wasn't around, like enough. Then her conscience reapproached her, and she yearned to say something kind and loving, but she judged that this would be construed into a confession that she had been in the wrong, and discipline forbade that. So she kept silent and went about her affairs with a troubled heart. Tom sulked in a corner and exalted his woes. He knew that in her heart his aunt was on her knees to him, and he was mercilessly gratified by the consciousness of it. He would hang out no signals. He would take notice of none. He knew that a yearning glance fell upon him now and then through a film of tears, but he refused recognition of it. He pictured himself lying sick unto death, and his aunt bending over him, beseeching one little forgiving word, but he would turn his face to the wall and die with that word unsaid. Ah, how would she feel then? He pictured himself brought home from the river dead, with his curls all wet, and his sore heart at rest. How she would throw herself upon him, and how her tears would fall like rain, and how her lips pray God to give her back her boy, and she would never abuse him any more. I just lost my place. Okay. But he would lie there cold and white and make no sign, a poor little sufferer whose griefs were at an end. He so worked upon his feelings with the pathos of these dreams that he had to keep swallowing. He was so like to choke. And his eyes swam in a blur of water, which overflowed when he winked and ran down and trickled from the end of his nose, and such a luxury to him was this petting of his sorrows, that he could not bear to have any worldly cheeriness or any grating delight intrude upon it. It was so sacred for such contact, and so presently, when his cousin Mary danced in, all alive with the joy of seeing home again after an age-long visit of 1 week to the country. He got up and moved in clouds and darkness out at the door, as she brought sun and sunshine in at the others. He wandered far from the accustomed haunts of boys, and sought desolate places that were in harmony with his spirit. A long raft in the river invited him, and he seated himself on its outer edge and contemplated the dreary vastness of the stream, wishing the while that he could only be drowned all at once and unconsciously, without undergoing the uncomfortable routine devised by nature. Then he thought of his flower, He got it out. We rumpled, rumpled, rumpled. I don't know how to say that word, but I think it's rumpled. And wilted, and it mightily increased his dismal felicity. He wondered if she would pity him if she knew. Would she cry and wish that she had a right to put her arms around his neck and comfort him? Or would she turn coldly away, like all the hollow world? This picture brought such an agony of pleasurable suffering that he worked it over and over again in his mind, and set it up in new and varied lights, till he wore it threadbare. At last he rose up, sighted, and departed in the darkness. About 9:30 past, or 10 o'clock, he came along the deserted street to where the adored unknown lived. He paused a moment. No sound fell upon his listening ear. A candle was casting a dull glow upon the curtain of a second-story window. Was the sacred presence there? He climbed the fence, threaded his stealthy way upon the plants, till he stood under that window. He looked up at it long, and with emotion. Then he laid him down on the ground, under it, disposing himself upon his back, with his hands clasped upon his breast, and holding his poor wilted flower. And thus he would die, out in the cold world, with no shelter over his homeless head, no friendly hand to weep the death damps from his woe, no loving face to bend pitifully over him when the great agony came. And thus she would see him when she looks out upon the glad morning, and oh, would she drop one little tear upon his poor lifeless form, when she heaved one little sigh to see a bright young life so rudely blighted, she untimely cut down. The window went up. A maid-servant's discordant voice profaned the holy flame, and a deluge of water drenched the prone martyr's remains. The strangling hero sprang up from a relieving snort. There was a wit's ass as of let me read that again. There was a wit's as of a missile in the air, mingled with the murmur of a curse, a sound as of shivering glass followed, and a small vague from when small vague form went over the fence and shot in the gloom. Not only after, as Tom, all undressed for bed, was surveying his drenched garments by the light of a tallow dip, Sid woke up, but if he had any idea of making any references to illusions, he thought better of it and held his peace, for there was danger in Tom's eye. Tom turned in without the added vexation of prayers, and Sid made mental note of the omission. And then that's the end of the chapter. So pretty much, you had some good stuff happen in this chapter. You know, you had Tom get off all fine after finishing whitewashing this fence. His Aunt Polly didn't even notice it. You had what else did you have? You had Tom play, general you know, playing his game, and we meet the new girl. He's kind of gonna have a crush on. Don't know if she's gonna be making a lot of appearances in this book yet, or if it's just gonna be a one-off thing. I like the way Mark Twain described that stuff, and also we had the stuff what Tom was wondering, what if he was to be gone, would Aunt Polly care? What Polly's reaction be after smacking him around and stuff? So overall, this chapter actually I thought was a pretty good chapter. I thought it was very well explained. And that's the end of this Read Aloud series. So thank you guys for watching this. I'm probably going to come back on and do another one of these in a couple of minutes. But thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to my CM Brothers channel, because I post videos on there as well. And make sure also to subscribe to this channel for more Read Aloud series and other videos on this channel. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.